Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're going to have a look at scaling and rotating objects. So I've got my cube here, so if you've got some other geometry in there, just delete it out, or you can just load a new file and we'll have a look at rotating. So if you've just got a cube in the middle, like so, and we're in edit mode as well, so if you've opened up a new blend file, just make sure you're in edit mode. And a quicker way of toggling between edit mode and object mode is to use the tab key. So with our 3D cursor, in our 3D view, if we just hit tab, you can see that's now changed to object mode, and if we do the same again, that's changed back to edit mode, which is great. So we're going to have a look at scaling this cube up. So if we hit the S key, you'll see we get this little sort of line, and if you just pull it in, it will get smaller, and if you pull it out, it will get bigger. So, and then you'll see if you go right in, it's actually now inverted it, so now your cube is inside out. So if you can see, the colour of the cube is changed slightly, so this is lighter and now this is darker. So this is important when we're adding materials, or if you're exporting it into a game engine. We want all of our faces to be facing the right way. So if we had our cube like this, so it's inside out, none of our materials would show up, it would just be completely see-through. So we want to make sure that we don't accidentally invert our objects. So we'll be having a look at faces and normals a bit later on in the tutorial. I'll explain a bit more about them. So that's scaling, so S to scale, and just scale up or down. So another thing you can do is you can scale it along a particular axis. So if we hit S and then we hit the X key, you'll see you get that line, and now we can scale that just along that axis. And then we can do the same for the Y, so S and then Y, and you can bring it out, and then also S and Z, and you can do it that way. So that's pretty cool. So now I want to have a look at rotating, so I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. So I'm just going to shrink that down a bit so we can see what we're doing. So rotating is R. And then you can see that currently we're sort of rotating and it's going everywhere. So we can constrain the rotation the same way that we constrain the axis on the scale. So if we wanted to rotate it along the Y, so that's Y, and you'll see that it pivots around that line. So if we left click to keep it in place, and then we can rotate it along the X, and it's going to rotate around that way, and then left click to leave it in place, and then rotate it along the Z, and you can see you can spin it round, and then if we right click, it's going to go back to where it was before. So R and then Z, and then left click to keep that in place. So scaling, left click to keep that, so scale it down, so there you go, that's scaling and rotating. So you can scale, I've been scaling the whole object, so if we I'm just going to make that a bit bigger, there we go. So you can scale just a part of your object if you wanted to. So currently we have our whole object selected, so if I just A to deselect, and I'm going to select a face, so I'm going to select this face, and then we can just scale that particular part of the geometry. So now if we go to scale, you can see it's just scaled that one section, and we can also scale that to set axis. So you can see in the centre here it's got these transform lines which correspond to your grid lines. So if we wanted to scale that along the Y, can see it's now going to scale that out that way. Or we could scale that on the Z axis. So it's now going to scale it out that way. And we can also rotate that as well. So we can rotate it, and you can see it's doing something a little bit crazy here. We've got sort of geometry going through itself, which is not what we want. So do be careful when you're rotating that you don't over rotate something. And you'll see here it's got some black bits, which means it's not going to look very good when we render it out. So I'm just going to undo that. So that's scaling and rotating. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to make our first quick model. So I'm just going to show you one that I made earlier. Here I have a very basic model of a plane. So let's see how you guys get on making this using the tools I've just shown you before. So if you guys want to go ahead and give this a go, and we'll see what you guys make. If you want to take screenshots and then put them on the Q&A, that would be great, so we can see what kind of crazy planes you guys are creating. So if you want to just go ahead and give that a go, and then I'll come back and we'll have a look at making this together. Okay, so we're just going to make a really basic plane like this one using the techniques that we've just been shown. So I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to select it all and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to put my cursor back to the center. So bring up my snap menu with Shift S and then cursor to center, and I'm just going to add in a cube, so Shift A to add and a cube. Okay, so this is going to be the body of our plane, so I want it to be a bit longer than this. So I'm just going to scale it along the Y axis, so S and then Y to constrain it, and that's probably about right, maybe a little bit less. Okay, so that's the body of our plane. So now I'm just going to add in another cube, so Shift A, and I'm going to add another cube right here. And I'm just going to scale that down, so it's about the same size, and then I'm just going to move it forward along the Y axis. So it's just sat the front there. So now I want this to be the front of my plane, so I want this to be the nose cone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this first face. So first scale that down. You can see instantly that that's starting to look a bit better. Well, we're going to move it out a little bit. And then maybe scale it down a little bit more. And just move it up a tad. So there we can see it's already starting to look plain-ish. So then I'm just going to add another cube, and we're going to do the tail section. So just scale that down again, so it's about the same size, and move it to the back this time. So we're going to do this tail the same way that we did the wedge shape. So make sure we've got vertices selected. I'm just going to take these bottom two, so Shift and right click to select the bottom two edges, vertices, sorry. And then to bring up the delete menu and delete those vertices. So now I'm going to select these, select these two corner ones. Make sure you don't have any other ones selected like I just did. So select those two corners and F to fill, and then the same on this side, these two and F to fill, and then select all of those and fill, and then select these three and fill, and then the last one and fill. So there we go, we've already got the body of our plane. So now we're going to add in the wings. So Shift A, add another cube. And we're going to scale this time just on the x-axis. So I'm going to make it quite thin, and then we're going to move it so that it's just sitting inside our model. And we're going to move it up to the top. Now we're going to scale it out along this y-axis. So scale on the y-axis and pull it out to about there. And then we want it to be a little bit wider than this, so we're just going to select this front face, and then we're just going to move that front face out to about there. So now what we want to do is make this more of a wing shape. So to do that, I'm just going to select these two corner vertices and just move them in, and then do the same on that side. And then I'm going to select this last face again. I'm just going to make it a little bit thinner, and I'm going to move it forward a bit, and then maybe scale it in on the Y as well. So that's one wing done. So now we're just going to repeat exactly the same process on the other side. So Shift A to bring up your add menu, add a cube, scale it along the Z axis, and then we're going to move it out. Needs to be a little bit thinner, I think, so scale it down again, and then scale it on the Y. So you can move around your model like I'm doing to get a better view of how these are lining up. That's probably about right. So now we need to bring this wing out a bit more, so face selection, and just select that front face, and then just put it out. Let's have a look from the top. I think that's probably about right. And then we're just gonna move these points in. So select both of them and move them in. Select these two and move them in. Let's have a look, see how that's looking. So we're just going to scale that a little bit on the Y and bring it out a little bit more. And then just make that a little bit thinner, so scale on Z. And then we have our wings. And now we're just going to add in the final little tail section. So Shift A, add another cube, and move that to the back, and then scale on the Z, and scale it down, and move it up a bit. And now we want to scale it on the Y again, so scale and Y, and then just move that back. We want it to be a little bit wider, so scale and Z. So there you go. And if you want to move these bottom points, because this is a bit flat at the moment, I want this to be a bit higher, we can just zoom in and we can just select these points. Now because we've got two cubes here, so we've got this cube and we've got this cube. If we go into vertices select, you'll see we've got lots of points here. So we could just do this manually and select like this and then move around, and then we can just move all those points up together like so, or we can use some handy multiple select tools that Blender has. So to do that, so I'm just going to deselect those first, so nothing's selected, there's the C select tool, so if you hit C on your keyboard, you'll see you get this little circle, and then you can just hold your left mouse button down and then just move it over, and you'll see anything within that circle then gets selected. So if you've made an accidental selection, like I have, I just selected this section over here, if you hold the Shift key and then click, you'll see that that then deselects the current selection. So C select, just hold the left mouse button down, I'll select the different points, and then Shift and left mouse button to deselect them. So another thing you can do with the C select tools, if you use your middle mouse button, you can see you can expand the area and make it really tiny. So if you wanted to select, say, a larger portion of your model like so, now that's selected all of those vertices within this area. Now, one thing you can't do in C select is if you try and move your middle mouse button to rotate around your object, you'll see that you can't do it. So I'm just going to put my C select tool down to its normal size. So to get out of this, you need to right click. So if you right click, it'll disappear, and then you can see that you can carry on moving around your object as normal. So that's the C select tool. The other one is the B select or box select. So hit B, you'll get these crosshairs, and then if you use your left mouse button, just draw a box, and then anything within that box will then be selected. And then the same to deselect. So hold down the Shift, press B, and then hold down Shift, and then draw your box, and you'll be able to unselect them. So I'm just going to use the C select. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller, it doesn't quite need to be that big. And I'm just going to select these 4 vertices. Just going to zoom out a bit. And then I'm just going to bring them up. And there you go. You see, that's looking a bit better. So that's how to make a very, very basic plane. So in the next video we're going to start looking at some other 3D modelling tools, and we're going to start looking at how we can cut this geometry up and put in some extra vertices so we can manipulate a bit easier around our models.